Hello and welcome to a new video. We have some exciting news for February because we have the final release date of the new Onyxia raid, as well as balance updates and the release of the newest World Boss Atal'zul on World of Warcraft, Warcraft Reborn Bronzebeard. So let's dive in. If you haven't heard yet, Atal'zul now released this Saturday, January the 31, and I already have defeated him. You can find my clear of this new World Boss, which is a really fun fight, in this video here. For the next news, Onyxia's Lair is releasing and we have a final release date. Onyxia's Lair releases next Saturday on February the 7th, and if you haven't heard yet, it's not the normal Onyxia fight. Instead, we have a complete overhaul of the new instance with a new boss fight, new mechanics, and maybe even new bosses inside. We don't know yet, but as we can see on the pictures here, it looks really cool. So I'm really looking forward what we will see in Onyxia's Lair and how this boss fight will be. Next, we have an update to Worldforged items. A lot of Worldforged items gets buffed with the next patch. For example, this gun here, this shield, and we have a full list here of a lot of individual changes for World Buff items. You can go through it yourself to see what's really good, if your Worldforged items are affected by this, or if you can see what you can use in the future. Really interesting changes. Let's come to the balance updates. Every class gets a balance update, especially Mystic enchants, which weren't really used yet, will get adjusted. So we will look into every class and see how it will affect the class. Let's start with the priest. They say discipline priests are receiving several minor adjustments aimed to increasing the quality of life. So they will get a little bit of love here, increasing their power and increasing the number of different effective Mystic enchant choices. Holy priests are getting changes to their mana sustain, giving them more powerful options for single target healing. That's cool. Shadow Priests are receiving a large number of changes aimed at significantly increasing the damage in single target and AoE situations, and quality of life updates. Once again, Shadow Priests get more love and they need it. So Discipline Grace, the buff granted by this talent, is no longer limited to being active on only one target at a time. So you can use this buff on more people. Discipline Borrowed Time now grants up to 20% spell haste from 25. This looks like a nerf to me. This change addresses a large amount of Discipline Priest power being concentrated in one talent choice, while enabling them to scale from haste on gear for longer. Okay. The epic enchant Words of Time now also makes Borrowed Time, increasing your healing power by 10% of your intellect, so a complete buff here. For Holy, Lightwell gets adjusted. Lightwell will be overhauled. Lightwell will now attempt to heal every nearby party or raid member within 20 yards every second if they have less than 50% health. It lasts for 30 seconds or until it has healed 10 times. The heals benefit from your spell power and crit chance. And if it crits, it will also trigger Surge of Light. Greater Heal mana costs have been reduced by 10%. Holy Concentration, the buff granted from this talent now lasts 12 seconds up from 8. Epiphany of Light, this talent now gives your Holy Fire periodic damage a 12% chance of triggering Surge of Light, up from 6%, so a big buff here, and it also doubles the periodic damage of Holy Fire by 60%. Holy Ascension, the legendary enchant, now passively increases the critical strike chance of your Holy Fire and Smite by 20%. This is really cool. Instead of the Smite critical chance only being increased for the next 2 Smites casts after casting Holy Fire. In addition, casting Guardian Spirit on yourself makes you generate no threat, and Ascended Holy Nova has been increased by about 30%, so big buff for Smite Priest here. That's cool. The epic enchant Higher Power has been reworked. Now, when your mana is above 50%, Greater Heal has a 30% increased critical effect chance, but costs 20% more mana. When your mana instead is below 50%, Greater Heal costs 30% less mana. Also, cool adjustment here. Overflowing Light. This enchant now also grants a stack of Serendipity when it triggers. Prayer of Circle, in addition to triggering from Holy Fire, this now also triggers from casting Prayer of Mending. So Cool changes to Holy Priest. I think you will love this and it will make your playing Priest more fun. For Shadow Priest, Onyxia now also deals damage to its main target. I never understood why it didn't before. Good change. Vampiric Touch now also deals 12% increased damage. That's good. Only in PvE. Devouring Plague now deals about 8% more damage. Pain and Suffering. The Shadow Word Pain duration refresh on this talent can now also trigger from Onyxia in addition to Mindflay. You will keep your Shadow Word Pain also in AoE scenarios on the targets. Really good change. This feels a lot like SOD. That's everything they also did in Season of Discovery for Shadow Priest, and it felt good there. Shadow Misery. The Misery effect now also triggers from Onyxia, also for AoE, more support, really good. And improved Spirit Tap. This buff now grants 15% and 30% increased Spirit up from 5 to 10%. And its duration has been increased 2 more seconds, so way more mana regeneration, really good change. The talent improved Shadow Word Pain now increases the damage of Shadow Word Pain by 12% up from 6% to 2 points in it. That's also really good. White Eruption now has a 45-second cooldown down from 60 seconds. Big buff here for a legendary enchant. Psychic Influence. This enchant now also has an additional effect. Your Mindseer causes the main target to suffer an additional 15% per each enemy hit, so another buff for AoE, really good. Endless Void. This enchant now extends Void touched from Void Eruption beyond its 20 seconds duration. The duration extension has also been increased from 4 to up to 5 seconds. And Psychic Infusion. The mana rack granted by this enchant can now trigger multiple times when Psychic Scream hits multiple target affected by your Shadow Word Pain. So big buffs for Shadow Priest, really cool. I think Shadow Priests need more love and they get it here. Cool changes. Mage. Okay, in PvP buffs mostly, giving them some tools. Okay, Fire gets some PvP orientated updated. Okay, Fire already does well in PvE too, that's true, they do good damage and will continue improving with powerful gear offering more crit, so they will scale good. And Frost receives significant PvE buffs. They increase the mana granted from mana gems by about 35%. Barrage Overload, the mana cost increase of Arcane Blast has been reduced from 40 to 30%. Arcane Conduit is new epic enchant. The evocation channel twice as fast and fires an arcane projectile at your target every second. While channeling, you take 40% reduced damage and become immune to interrupt and silence effects, so cool PvP change. Each second spent channeling reduces the remaining cooldown of arcane power, presence of mind and evocation by 10%. Arcane Dominance, the epic enchant, has been reworked. Now it increases your spell crit by 15% of your intellect, and in addition you gain clear casting after using presence of mind, mana gem, or killing an opponent. Impeccable Timing, this enchant now also passively grants 10% of your intellect or spell haste rating. Temporal Haste, this enchant has been renamed to Resonant Barrage and reworked. The new tool to breeds your Arcane Barrage makes your next Arcane Blast deal 15% more damage and generate an additional charge, or makes your next spell deals an additional magic effect. That's cool. This effect stacks up 3 times. And Blink of the Warden has been reworked. Your blink distorts reality around you, confusing your enemies and leaving behind a mirror image in the place you left. Spells cast on you will be absorbed by the mirror image instead. In addition, using Blink generates 2 charges of Arcane Plus. That's also really fun. Cool changes, cool buffs for Arcane Mage. Fire Mage. Cauterize, an attack which would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 35% of your maximum health. When this happens, all movement speed impairs on you are cleared and you gain 15% movement speed for 6 seconds, but burn taking 3% of your health as fire damage per second. Basically something like Rogue Self with cheat death, but for mages now in PvP. This looks really good. Blazing Speed has been reworked and now is be specialized against melee attackers. Taking a melee hit greater than 5% of your health dispels all movement impairing effect on you and increases your movement speed by 50%. The legendary enchant Blazing Flame. Blazing Speed is now guaranteed to trigger when dealing damage with Blast Wave or Dragon's Breath instead of triggering from damage. Blazing Speed also increases the critical chance of your Scorch and Pyroblast by 30% and makes them extend the duration of Blazing Speed by 1 second. Fire Walk With Me. This also reduces the range of Scorch by 10 yards, but also allows to be cast while moving. Really cool change. Blast Wave, the cooldown of the spell has been reduced by 20 seconds down from 30. Fire Blast, mana cost reduced by 18%. If a Fire Blast now grants 100% increased crit to your Fire Blast against stunned or incapacitated targets up from 50%. And Brand of the Pyromaniac. This now makes your next 2 Pyroblasts down from 3, bounce to up 2 additional enemies, down from 3, so a nerf here. The cooldown reduction to combustion and cremation has been increased from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, so a nerf for this one here because of the big buffs before. For Frost, Frostbolt damage increased by 4%, Deep Freeze damage increased by 20%, Chill to the Bone now also increases the damage of Deep Freeze, it affects it now. Frost Bomb now has an 8-second duration for against players and makes the target count as frozen. In addition to that, Frost Bomb has a new mechanic. 30% of your frost damage dealt to the target affected by Frost Bomb pulses outward, damaging all nearby enemies. Winter's Blaze now increases the damage of your Frostfire Bolt by 15%, down from 25%. It now increases the damage of Frostbolt and Ice Dance by 10%, up from 8. Glacial Cascade, this now triggers on every third Frostbolt instead of every fourth. It now also reduces the cast time of your Frostbolt, and Icy Slaughter, this now also makes Icy Vein increase the damage of Deep Freeze by 20% and makes Deep Freeze always deal damage when used against monsters, even when they are not stun immune, and makes dealing damage with Deep Freeze reduces the cooldown of Icy Veins by 10 seconds, so big buffs for Frost Mage here. Druid, Balanced Druid. Moonkins receiving a small baseline power increase and gaining valuable utility via adjustment to core talents. Additionally, several underperforming enchants are receiving significant power increases aimed at making them competitive with the strongest options. Moonkins were already really strong, they even buffing them more, I don't know about that. Feral Druids get a number of buffs to improve their overall performance and playstyle, as well as a more targeted rework to Predator's Wrath playstyle. Resto Druids are having small reductions to their mana regeneration reduced in several places and to the healing of Rejuvenation. Combined with a brand new artifact enchant and buffs to other enchants, this is aimed at increasing the diversity of playstyles and bringing them more in line with other healers. So for balance, Cyclone range increased to 25 yards up from 20 yards. This shall make Cyclone more versatile, especially when used with the range increasing talents, more powerful also against ranged opponents. Improved Moonkin form now increases your spell damage by up to 50% from your spirit from 40%. Wow. This is insane. Dream State restores mana equal to 25% of your intellect up from 18%. Moonglow now reduces the mana cost of spells by 12%, up from 9%, and Sunfire, the damage dealt of the spell has been increased by 15% and no longer splits its damage. It now also has an additional mechanic. Sunfire increases the periodic damage from Moonfire and Insect Swarm by 15% per targeted for its duration, capping at 75 at 5 targets. Insane, Moonkits are so strong already, and they will be even stronger. Chosen of Elune, in addition to its current effect, this enchant also makes your Eclipse Solar to increase your crit chance by 15% of your spirit and your haste by 15% of your spirit in lunar form. Touch of Elune also increases your damage done by 15% while active. Astral Winds, new epic enchant. Targets released from your Cyclone or hit by your Typhoon take 50% reduced healing, fading over 8 seconds. In addition, the cast time of Cyclone is reduced by 0.3 seconds. Since Cyclones also affects target are immune to healing, this enchant makes Cyclone a powerful offensive tool, useful to control of target but also kill targets. Wow. Elune's Fury, this now allows Moonfire to hit 2 additional nearby targets up from 1, it stacks up 3 times, and Graceful Resurgence. This now increases the damage of Wrath, Starfire and Star Surge on targets below 35 health by 15% up from 10%. Nature's Grace, triggered by killing an enemy with this enchant, now lasts for 6 seconds. Insane buffs for Moonkins. Feral Druids for Cat. Rake, the damage of this ability has been increased by about 15% for all ranks. Ravage, the damage of Ravage has been increased by about 30%. Primal Gore. This talent now also enables the periodic damage from Rake to deal critical damage. Wrathful Strikes. This enchant also has a new mechanic, Casting Wrath, makes your direct damage cat form abilities on a target deal additional nature damage scaling with attack power. Attacks up 10 times, increasing damage done by 5%. Wow. This sounds strong. Predator's Wrath Focus, in addition to making Wrath castable in cat form, restores 20 energy. This enchant also makes them unable to miss and cost no mana. Predator's Wrath Combo, in addition to making Wrath generate 2 combo points, this enchant also makes Wrath increase the critical strike of the next cat ability by 25%. And the Ambush Predator now makes your Ravage apply the Mangle debuff, and Omen of Fatality has been reworked. Now gives your Feral Bleed effect 35% chance of triggering Omen of Clarity and makes consuming Omen of Clarity increase your attack speed by 20%. Wow. Ferocious Clarity now has a unique icon, okay. And Bash and Trash tooltip, okay. Also really strong changes for cats. Feral Druids will be strong after this update, pretty sure. For Bear, Nature's Fervor has been reworked, now reads: your Trash ability now has a 9-second cooldown and empowers your next Verifier. Grant 8% increased agility for 10 seconds. Swipe generates double threat and procs infected wounds if known. Growl generates significant threat, applying demoralizing roar, and only triggers a 1-second cooldown. Big buff for tank druids here. Iron 4 now also generates 10 rage when used, really good quality of life. The epic enchant Relentless Laceration now grants 2% increased crit per application of Lacerate up from 1, big buff. And with Sarah now has a 20% chance to trigger up from 10%. It also passively increases the crit chance of Mangled Bear. So big buffs for Druids here. Absolute winner of this update. Restoration baseline, mana regeneration gained from spirit has been restored to its original values. This was nerfed last time. More mana. Life Bloom, mana cost of the spell has been reduced by 10%. Rejuvenation, healing has been reduced by 5%. For compensation, restoration intensity now allows 40% of your mana regeneration to continue while casting, down from 50%, so a nerf here. And a new Druid artifact, Stone Bark. Target skin becomes harder stone, reducing damage taken by 20%, chance to be dispelled by 50%, and increases the healing taking from HOTS by 40% last 10 seconds. So a nice new buff you can put up on a target on damage spikes, something like pain suppression basically. That's cool. The legendary Spirit of the Forest, the instant healing from rejuvenation from this enchant now benefits from all modifiers that benefit rejuvenation, so more healing. Flow of Life, the healing from the spell now occurs twice as often but heals for half as much. Overflow now grants 20% cast time and mana cost reduction per stack up from 15. Booming Power, the 15% increased critical strike chance after casting Swiftmend can now also benefit your healing touch, in addition to Nourish and Regrowth, and Warden Insight, the chance to proc armor and clarity has been reduced to 3% from 4. Okay, next, the Shaman. The elemental shamans are receiving some targeted reductions to a few outlier spells. For example, they do big AoE and MAs with compensatory buffs in other places. Also quality of life. Enhancement receives some minor tweaks to make their enchant options a bit more open to the damage, a bit more consistent. And Resto Shamans are receiving significant power increase via iconic spells like Spirit Link Totem and Cloudburst, both of which are now usable alongside other build-defining legendary enchants. They have additionally received quality of life changes, removing the need to micromanage their shield while playing with a Shaman tank. So Thunderstorm, first buff, restores 15% mana up from 8%. Earthquake, the damage of this artifact has been reduced by 45%, but this was also really strong. Yeah, it was a big outlier, I can see this, makes sense. It now deals less damage and has less mana cost. Yeah, makes sense. Good change here. Molten Outburst, the damage of the eruption has been tripled. This enchantment now also passively increases the damage of Earthquake by 15%. So if you take this, you have the damage back basically, but I'm not a Shaman player, but I think you probably don't play this normally, I guess. There is your damage back. Elemental Focus, this now has 3 charges up from 2. This will help elemental shamans with mana. Lightning Overload, the chance for this talent to trigger has been increased from 40 up to 50%. Chain Lightning, the damage of the spell has been increased by 7%, so buff here. Glyph of Thunderstorm, the rare, now increases the mana regeneration by Thunderstorm by 10% up from 4, more mana. And quality of life, unintended interaction between Chain Lightning and Lightning Overload has been fixed. Each cast of Chain Lightning now has 1 chance to proc Lightning Overload and cast another Chain Lightning when successful. This will decrease the damage, probably it was buffed. Enhancement, Artifact Sundering, damage of Sundering has been increased by 15%. Cataclysmic Sundering has been reworked. Using Sundering creates a burning patch of lava on the ground, dealing fire damage to enemies over 4 seconds. When used against creatures, Sundering only triggers half its cooldown, no longer incapacitates, but now makes your next lava burst instant. Static Shock, proc chance of this talent has been increased by 50%, but it no longer can proc multiple times at the same time. Lava Sweep now deals 80%, damage to secondary targets up from 50%, and Electric Surge now also adds 2 extra charges to Flurry, increases its attack speed bonus by 10%. This looks like buffs to me. Resto, new artifact one, Spirit Link Totem summons an air totem, distributes the health of all party members within 10 yards, such that each player ends up with the same percentage of their maximum health. This is really cool. Looks great, and also has the Warcraft RP flavor to it. That's good. I like this. The legendary enchant Healing Rain. Healing has been increased by about 20%. Now also has an initial tick, meaning that it insta heals basically. That's also cool. Healing Rain now restores 6% of a base mana every time it heals. Epic Cloudburst Totem now has been changed to epic quality from legendary. So you get a free epic one, which was a legendary before. Tides of Restoration now triggers from chain healing in addition to lesser healing wave. It still reduces mana cost and increases the crit chance of your next healing wave by 20% and 10% at the same time. Resurgent Waves, if this triggers while Water Shield is active, you gain an extra Water Shield orb. You can store up to 5 orbs maximum. The mana rack on Healing Rain has been removed from this and put in Healing Rain itself, so a big buff here. And baseline, elemental shields are now limited to 1 shield per target per shaman, This means that casting Earth Shield on a Shaman already affected by water or Lightning Shield will not override them, so also good quality of life here. Great changes for Shaman, I think. A big nerfs to 2 strong abilities, but overall good adjustments. Warlock's getting a lot of buff to underutilized enchants. Also, they shift some power out of Nether Portal, Hand of Gul'dan, and Shadow Variants of Destruction are receiving significant buffs. Shadow Warlocks will be way stronger. For Affliction, Soul Swap. Now an artifact enchant changed from legendary, so you get Soul Swap as artifact. That's really cool. Seed of Corruption, the damage of the explosion is reduced by 12% and its radius is now 10 yards. This change is aimed at making Seed of Corruption more in line with Hellfire and Rain of Fire. A little bit of a nerf here. For Destruction, it will be offset by the change to Ember Storm, which we will see in a second. Agonizing Coal now reduces the cooldown of Death Coil by 90 seconds, increased from 60 seconds. Nether Portal, the cooldown of this has been increased back from 90 seconds up to 120 seconds. They reverted this. In addition, Soulfire now only spawns an extra demon if you cast during Decimation. This means that the optimal way to use this enchant no longer will involve using Soulfire throughout the fight and consuming an obscene amount of soul shards in the process. Yeah, this is something our Warlocks were complaining a lot about. Heretic of Gul'dan, cooldown reduction of Hand of Gul'dan from this enchant now also triggers from Shadow Bolt. It no longer doubles on critical hits but triggers upon cast instead of hit. Demonic Persistence, this enchant has been reworked to be more intuitive and powerful. It now reads casting Hand of Gul'dan, increasing the damage of your wild imps by 5%, stacks up 4 times. Nerfs and buffs to Demo Warlock, but I think they will still be strong as they were the whole time already. Destruction Warlock, Shadow Bolt, its damage has been increased by 6%, mana cost reduced by 11%. Ember Storm now also increases shadow damage in addition to fire damage. Bane of Havoc, the legendary enchant, the radius has been increased by about 25%. In addition, Bane of Havoc also increases your chance of your Shadow Bolt, Incinerate, Soulfire and Chaos Bolt to critical strike by 15%. Pyroclasmic Shadows, the epic enchant, the crit chance of granted to Shadow Bolt has been increased from 10 to 20. Dust Till Dawn, this now triggers from Shadow Bolt and Chaos Bolt, and its stacks amount has been increased to 5 from 3. Using Shadowborn with at least 3 stacks makes it cost no soul shard and hit up 2 additional targets, applying corruption to all targets. Chaos Manifesting, the buff granted by this enchant now lasts for 10 seconds up from 8. Eating Up, this enchant also permanently increases the crit chance of your Conflagrate by 15%. And Glyph of Shadowbolt now reduces the cast time of Shadowbolt by 6% up from 3. Shadow Destruction Warlocks might be really strong with these changes here. Also Demo Warlocks, I think this could be really strong. Will be really interesting to see how this will affect Warlocks overall. For Rogue, so they changed Sub-Rogue, and also rogues are getting a bunch of buffs to underperforming enchants and playstyles. Let's read into it. Adjusted the calculations determining how much agility is required to dodge. This will result in well-geared rogues in current gear losing around 1 to 2% dodge chance. The time it takes for players to leave PvP combat when not engaging in any combat action has been increased from 5 to 5.5 seconds. That means rogues no longer will be able to gouge, self and zap the target before the gouge ends, so you can counterplay. This will probably piss off rogues, pretty sure. Assassination, Crimson Tempest. The damage of Crimson Tempest has been increased by about 20%. Crimson Hunger, the legendary enchant, now provides 50% increased damage to Crimson Tempest, down from 100%, so a big nerf. Taking with the 20% baseline buff to Crimson Tempest damage, this will result in about a 10% damage reduction to Crimson Tempest on the main target. A nerf for Assassination Rogue here. Combat, Repose, this ability will now award 2 combo points. Grappling Hook now has a 25-second cooldown down from 30. Shattering Execution, the debuff from this enchant now lasts for 15 seconds down from 30. It now provides 8% armor penetration, 5% against players, and stacks up 5 times, up from 10 times, stacking 3 times. Assassin's Rush, this enchant also passively increases your melee attack speed. That's sounds good. And Massacre, this enchant now makes Killing Spree deal its full damage up from 70% to nearby targets. In addition, the debuff increasing damage taken from this enchant now lasts 30 seconds, so big buffs for combat here it seems like. I know a special rogue who is also a content creator who probably will like this. Shoutouts to D2 here. Sub-Rogue, Master of Subtlety. Original behavior of this talent has been restored, making it no longer activates when using Shadow Dance. From the shadows, in addition to a cooldown reduction effect, this enchant also makes Shadow Dance grant an empowered Master of Sub buff, increasing your damage dealt against creatures by 20%, so that's really strong. Rush of Blood, Quality of Life, changed to Legendary from Epic. This enchant also reduces the energy cost of Ambush by 10% and permanently removes the positional requirement of Ambush against monsters. That sounds really good. This enchant also replaces Shadow Blades as a Legendary enchant option from the level 30 quest. so you can level with this now. Rogue Epic Shadow of Death in addition to its current effect. This enchant also makes Shadow Dance grant 50% increased damage against creatures below 35% health. G-Death now has a 90-second cooldown up from 60 seconds. This talent will remain powerful, but should give more window of vulnerability. Hunter. Beastmaster and Marksmanship Hunters receive improvement of their Mystic enchants and talents and increases their effectiveness and make both specs exciting to play. Barbed Shot damage is increased by 25%. Stampede debuff now increases damage taken by 20% up from 12%. Joint Onslaught damage from this enchant now increased by about 33%. Hunting Frenzy, the guaranteed pet ability crit chance and focus cost removal is now triggered by using kill command in addition to being triggered when killing an enemy. And Savage Momentum, this now also reduces the cooldown of quick shot and arcane shot in addition to aim shot and multi shot. Big buffs for Beastmaster Hunter here. This looks really cool. Marksmanship. Arcane Shot, damage of this ability has been increased by 15%. Quick Shot, also 15% more damage. Marksmanship improved Steady Shot, now grants 20% damage increase up from 15%. It also reduces mana cost by 25% up from 20%. Marksmanship Piercing Shots now also triggers from Kill Shot. Legendary Power Shot, this ability now also benefits from the Barrage and improved Barrage talents. Legendary Expunge, this enchant now also reduces the cooldown of Chimera Shot by 2 seconds. And Epic Trick Shots. This now works with Quick Shot as well as Arcane Shot. Instead of increasing the damage by 20%, it makes it guaranteed crit. Glyph of Serpent Sting. This glyph now also increases the damage of Serpent Sting by 20%. Cool changes to Marksmanship as well. Big buffs here. Survival. Master Tactician now increases your crit chance with all ranged attacks. Changed from ranged to melee attacks. So ranged attacks be granted has been increased from 15 to up to 20%. Deadly Bite. Periodic damage has been reduced by about 10%. Epic Concussive Trauma. This enchant now also supercharges your concussive shot when used on a target within 15 yards, increasing its slow by 70%, making it only trigger half its cooldown. Molten Ammo, damage increased from 70 to 80%, and Scorpion Sting. This effect now reduces target's resistance, providing an alternative to use of Curse of the Elements buff compared with Earth and Moon. That's really cool. I really like this. Cool changes here. I like the Hunter changes. Okay, Paladins. Now the really important things are starting. Holy Paladins are receiving target buffs to Light of Dawn. Glimmer of Light, the legendary holy enchant. Buff has been adjusted, increasing its healing. All healing taken from the Paladin by 3%. Now increases the chance that Paladin will critically heal the target with Flash of Light by 25%. That sounds good. Gift of Light. This now empowers your Light's Grace, making it reduce the casting of Holy Light by an additional 2.25%. Cool. Light of Dawn now heals up to 10 insured allies up from 5. That's really cool. More AoE healing for Paladin here, for Holy Paladin, strong. And Righteous Verdict. This now grants 25% increased crit chance and 30% reduced mana cost up from 20%. Cool changes to Holy Paladin, cool buffs here. Protection. Protection Paladin now take 12% increased damage in PvP. Okay, PvP. Ardent Defender now has a 90-second cooldown down from 2 minutes. The heal can now restore up to 50% of your health up from 30%, so the talent can adjust that, no one takes this. Protection improved Righteous Fury. This now reduces the damage taken by 9% up from 6%. Less damage for Paladins here, big buff. Crimson Defense, this enchant also passively increases your block chance by 10%, that's really good for Paladins. Light of the Guardian, this enchant now reduces damage taken from creatures by 20% from 10% for 8 seconds up from 6 seconds. Baleful Hammer, this now increases your armor by 15% where Holy Shield is active up from 10%, and Righteous Fury increases its threat generation by 60 up from 50%. This effect is still doubled for Holy, so big buffs for Protection Paladins here. They will be really good with this. And now, the Retribution Paladin. Let's see. Holy Templar gets buffed. Weapon damage up to 180% from 150%. This is really interesting. I will try this out for sure. Cool change. Execution Sentence. The final damage dealt by this is now considered a melee ability, meaning it uses melee hit chance. That's good. It can't miss anymore now, and it's double damage when it critically strikes. Ooh. I think I will test out both of this. This sounds also really cool. Sword of Vengeance, the epic enchant. Fix the bug causing this to trigger Seal of Command on each Sword of Vengeance hit. Oh, that's sad. Its AoE radius has been increased from 3 yards up to 5 and its damage doubled. This will result in this enchant being better than previously for single target but weaker against multiple targets. Yeah, this was insanely strong on AoE, and in my AoE build I might have to adjust it now. Sad they changed it, but okay. More single target damage now. Crusader's Judgment. This now increases the damage of Crusader Strike by 30% up from 20%. That's really cool if we combine it with Execution Sentence. Divine Resurgence. This chance for this is to trigger has been increased from 12 up to 15%. Not quite sure which one this is, to be honest. Branding Seal now also makes Hammer of Wrath trigger your Seal of Righteousness. This is a big buff. Ooh, This one makes me sad, to be honest. I really like this AoE build, but we can work around, so we use something else. Everything else is insanely good for Red Paladin. I really like this, and I will adjust my build and try out Holy Templar and Execution Sentence, and will make new builds for sure. And then warriors for the end here. Arms warriors are receiving significant increases to their raw damage, while Fury receives a suite of new tools designed to bridge the gap, offering more mobility and buffs to their Titan's grip playstyle. Overpower now deals 120% weapon damage, up from 100%, so buff here. Thunderclap, damage has been increased by about 25%. Swordspec, now chance to proc up to 15% from 10. Heavy Thunder, this has a new effect. When Thunderclap only hits one target, the next Thunderclap costs no rage and has 40% increased crit chance. Passive damage increase has been reduced to 20% instead. Heavy Weight, Ready to Crush now increases the damage and crit chance of Mortal Strike by 40%, up from 30. Colossal Smash, this ability cannot be blocked, dodged or parried, and now also applies 2 stacks of Thunder Armor. Its debuff increases the damage you deal to the target by 15% for 7 seconds from 10 from 8. In addition, its damage has been increased by about 15%, but no longer pierces armor, which results in a very slight damage increase. And it will now benefit from armor penetration, so a buff overall. In Settable, this now has an additional mechanic. If one of your attacks is dodged, you instantly gain full stacks. This sounds cool. Also, the buff display for this enchant has been changed to reduce the amount of bluff bloat instead of giving a secondary buff, so quality of life here. And Master of Arms, the armor penetration granted based on his strength is now a passive effect of this enchant instead of being a buff, so also quality of life. Fury, Berserker Stand now grants 5% increased crit chance up from 3 and increases damage taken by 3 down from 5, so big buff here. Bloodthirst, the healing is now further increased by your attack power. Healing no longer generates threat. Cleave, the bonus damage of Cleave has been adjusted to be more focused on weapon damage, offering less of a flat bonus. Dragon Roar, this legendary enchant has been reduced the cooldown of your Whirlwind ability by 2 seconds and fully resets its cooldown when using Dragon Roar. Its cooldown has been increased to 30 seconds up from 25. In addition, its damage has been increased by about 50% but no longer pierces armor, which results in a very slight damage increase, and it will benefit from armor penetration now. Dragon Warrior has been reworked. Now Dragon Roar grants your Death Wish if not already active for 5 seconds, so it will activate it. Using Whirlwind reduces the remaining cooldown of your Dragon Roar by 5 seconds. Sounds really cool to me. Raging Blow, the unrippled rage effect, making Raging Blow not trigger any cooldowns, now also triggers when killing an enemy. That interaction used to be on the Raging Onslaught epic enchant, which was used by everyone I think. Unbridled Rage is now also granted by using Berserker Rage, and now fully removes the rage cost of Raging Blow instead of reducing it by 10. Raging Onslaught, this enchant now also makes Unbridled Rage empower your next Raging Blow, giving it 30% increased crit. Ambidextrous, the triggered offhand attack now deals 60% weapon damage, down from 75, so this got nerfed a little bit. Skull Crusher, this now reduces the remaining cooldown of Bladestorm or Death Wish by 4 seconds up from 2, but it no longer can proc multiple times from a single slam cast. I think this was the one they used in AoE scenarios, which made them make really big damage, so a nerf here. Heroic Rush, your Heroic Fury ability now increases your movement speed by 15% and attack speed of 30 seconds for 4 seconds, instead of resetting the cooldown of Intercept. Cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds, and Desperation has been adjusted. It now increases your healing taken by 10% and your damage done against targets below 35 health by 8%. It's tripled when you are below half health. And finally, Protection. Vigilant Vanguard replaces your Intervene with Vanguard. Using this ability, intervenes to the target of your Vigilance and engages the target. As long as you stay in melee range with a Vanguard target and their target enemy, you will follow up the melee hits against the target with a melee attack. That sounds really cool. Gladiator Stance now has an additional effect. Your shield block now increases the crit chance of shield slam by 30% and makes your shield slam hit an additional nearby target, but no longer increases your chance to block. Jab Cross, this enchant no longer benefits or gets consumed by Heroic Strike. Consuming this with Heroic Strike was a worse option than using a stronger attack, so this change will make this enchant slightly stronger. Once again has an additional effect. Using Devastate against monsters a chance to trigger the improved defense, stance, talent and rage effect, if you notice. Shieldmaster's Resolve. This enchant now reduces your damage taken by 10 when below 50% health, increased from when below 35% health. Spell Block no longer reduces the duration of shield block, it now requires defensive stance. Roar of Threat. The damage of this enchant has been increased by about 35%, the cooldown has been reduced to 12 seconds, and improved Spell Reflection. The party member Spell Reflection now has a 10 yard, down from 20. So big buffs for all tanks here it seems like. Big buffs for Shadow Warlocks and adjustments to their playstyle. Some nerfs for Red Paladins and buffs for them. Some nerfs for Rogue. Some buffs for them, same for Shamans. Druids are really strong now, even stronger than before. Mages got buffs and priests also got big buffs here. So great balance updates. I'm really interested how this will affect the meta. Then we have something about PvP. I don't care about this. And that's it. This was a really long news video. Let me know what you think about these updates in the comments down below. I'm really interested in your opinion about this and what do you think how this will affect your class. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this useful, consider to like and subscribe for more World of Warcraft Bronzebeard content. Special thanks goes out to my channel members who support me with their hard-earned real-life money, especially Soul 3, Jake Collis, Penguin625 and Icecorn.